How I met Basil. My wife at the time, who wasn't my wife yet, she was my girlfriend, I was still in school, she was working with Richard Kraft, and Richard got a call from Basil that his programmer at the time on a movie called Celtic Pride contracted chickenpox. And somehow or another, Richard recommended that Basil should call me to see if I could, fit the gig. I got the call, and there was something very specific he asked me over the phone, whether or not I understood, inside and out, upside down and backwards, a Roland S760 sampler. I had a couple of them, but I only knew them from the standpoint of using them as a playback medium and not getting crazy with the sampling technology. So I lied through my teeth. I said, yep, know it, blindfolded. Got off the phone with him, ran to the manual, learned how to do certain things that he said I was going to have to do, showed up to the gig the next day, and that kind of began the relationship of me being his programmer and synth guy for about, I'd say, 7-year stretch. That was a unique experience, certainly for me. Again, I can only talk from my perspective, but I would put that on a 13-week time frame, probably the longest I've ever been involved with a scoring process. Paul Verhoeven, an extremely intense person, and he and Basil had a great relationship. Paul would come over maybe twice, 3 times a week, and sit with us for an hour or two, sometimes 3 hours, and go through the mock-ups and express, as I said, very intensely, what certain motifs should be, or what kinds of sound effects we were going to be dealing with that we either had to avoid or cut through. He wanted to be a resource for guys that were in the business, I guess almost specifically as composers, younger guys coming up. Because we'd find ourselves many times that, out to dinner, having drinks or whatever, and we'd come across somebody, and it would turn into this 3-hour, chat session. And a lot of guys would always want to pick his brain about, obviously the volumes of work that he's done. And he would almost turn it right around and get more interested in them as, aspiring composers and the technologies they're using and the techniques that they're employing. I mean, he was just as much interested in everybody else's story as we were with his. Guy represented kind of all things that you can represent: the mentor, the brother, the father, the colleague, the friend. I mean, all these things wrapped up in one. He truly represented that in my life, where I can't really think of another person in my life that encapsulated all of those dynamics. And when you recognize how important somebody is to your life, and it's, interesting, just the last few days, again, in preparation for this, I've been thinking to myself what a sounding board he has been as a mentor, friend, and, now, that's not there. It's pretty heavy, it still kind of hits me, so